The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has deep roots in history, but much of the current tension can be traced back to the Israeli mentality towards Palestinians and Muslims. This mentality is often characterized by themes of inferiority, segregation, and displacement. For many Israelis, the perception of Palestinians as inferior is intertwined with historical narratives and socio-political dynamics. This perception has been perpetuated through various forms of media, education, and political rhetoric, creating a deep-seated bias that influences public opinion and policy. Segregation is another critical issue. The establishment of Israeli settlements in the West Bank and the construction of the separation barrier have physically divided communities, restricting the movement of Palestinians and isolating them in fragmented enclaves. These measures are often justified under the guise of security, but they have profound implications for the daily lives and freedoms of Palestinians. Displacement is a recurring theme in the history of the conflict. Since the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced from their homes. The Nakba, or catastrophe, as it is known to Palestinians, marks the beginning of a long history of displacement and dispossession. To this day, many Palestinians live in refugee camps, unable to return to their ancestral lands. Understanding the Israeli mentality towards Palestinians and Muslims is crucial for comprehending the broader dynamics of the conflict. It sheds light on the underlying prejudices and systemic inequalities that continue to fuel tensions and hinder the prospects for peace. As we delve deeper into the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza, it is essential to recognize the historical and psychological factors that shape the actions and attitudes of those involved in this protracted struggle. Gaza, a densely populated strip of land along the Mediterranean coast, is facing a dire humanitarian crisis. For over a month, a strict blockade has choked the flow of essential goods, leaving its healthcare system on the brink of collapse. Hospitals are grappling with a severe shortage of medical supplies. Essential medications for cancer and blood diseases are running dangerously low. The situation is a ticking time bomb, threatening the lives of countless civilians. Since the breakdown of the ceasefire on March 18, 2025, violence has surged with alarming intensity. Israeli airstrikes have rained down on Gaza, causing widespread destruction and claiming the lives of over 1,500 Palestinians. Thousands more have been wounded, overwhelming the already strained medical facilities. Recent attacks have been particularly devastating, with dozens killed in airstrikes on densely populated areas. Amidst the escalating violence, reports have emerged of Palestinian detainees being released from Israeli custody bearing signs of torture. These allegations paint a grim picture of the human cost of the conflict, raising serious concerns about human rights violations. The international community watches with growing apprehension as the situation deteriorates. The escalating crisis in Gaza has sparked international outrage and calls for urgent action. Indonesia, a vocal advocate for Palestinian rights, has stepped forward with a significant humanitarian initiative. The Southeast Asian nation has pledged to provide shelter to 1,000 Palestinians displaced by the conflict. Indonesia's President Prabowo, a staunch critic of the ongoing violence, has called for an immediate ceasefire and a return to negotiations. His government has been actively providing humanitarian aid to Gaza, sending medical supplies, food and other essential goods. Indonesia remains committed to a two-state solution, believing it is the only path to lasting peace in the region. The Indonesian government has also strongly condemned the recent violence and called for an independent investigation into the allegations of torture. President Prabowo has offered to send Indonesian peacekeeping troops to the region, highlighting his commitment to finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The current crisis in Gaza is the latest chapter in a century-long conflict rooted in competing claims to land and national identity. The seeds of discord were sown in the early 20th century with the rise of both Jewish and Arab nationalism in the region. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 marked a turning point in the conflict. The war that accompanied Israel's creation resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, creating a refugee crisis that continues to reverberate today. Subsequent wars in 1967, 1973, and most recently in October 2023 further entrenched the divisions and fueled resentment on both sides. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, offered a glimmer of hope for a negotiated settlement. However, the peace process ultimately faltered, and the two sides remain locked in a bitter struggle for control and self-determination. The failure to achieve a lasting peace has left the region trapped in a cycle of violence and despair. Section 4. The rise of religious dimensions. While the Israeli-Palestinian conflict originated as a political dispute, it has become increasingly intertwined with religious dimensions, adding layers of complexity to an already intractable problem. This shift is particularly evident in the rise of Hamas, the Islamist group that governs Gaza. Hamas, founded in 1987, rejects Israel's right to exist and advocates for an Islamic state in all of historic Palestine. Its charter draws heavily on Islamic scriptures and portrays the conflict in religious terms, framing it as a battle between Islam and its enemies. This rhetoric resonates with many Palestinians who view the conflict through the lens of faith and justice. The infusion of religion into the conflict has made finding common ground even more challenging. It has also fueled extremism and violence on both sides, as groups with deeply held religious convictions justify their actions in the name of God. The increasing prominence of religious rhetoric and actors presents a significant obstacle to achieving a peaceful resolution. Meanwhile, Western countries, despite facing their own economic challenges, continue to provide substantial funding to Israel. This has sparked criticism and debate over the prioritization of foreign aid over domestic issues. Section 5. Life under siege, the Palestinian struggle. For Palestinians in Gaza, life under blockade has become a grim reality. The Israeli-imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and people have crippled the economy, leaving many struggling to survive. Unemployment is rampant, and basic necessities are scarce and expensive. The blockade has had a devastating impact on the mental and physical well-being of the Palestinian population. The constant threat of violence, coupled with the lack of economic opportunities and freedom of movement, has taken a heavy toll. Trauma and despair are widespread, particularly among children who have known nothing but conflict and hardship. Despite the immense challenges, the Palestinian people have shown remarkable resilience and determination. They continue to strive for a better future, demanding an end to the occupation and the right to self-determination. Their struggle serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost of this protracted conflict.